All right, welcome to another episode of the Golden Glory Podcast, the bi-weekly MMO show that dives beneath the surface, asks the hard questions, and uncovers how you, the player, can maximize your impact in-game. As always, our current focus is the upcoming MMORPG from Artcraft Entertainment, Crowfall, and this happens to be our second episode of the day, and this is episode 5. We are broadcasting live today, Tuesday, February 24th, 2015. And with us, our host, as always, we have Onrez, the economist. Say hello, Onrez.
Hey, everybody. It's awesome to see some of the same people in chat that were in earlier today. Can't wait to get your guys' thoughts on all the drops today.
Yeah, and our main man, Lethality, the Trade Master. How are you?
What is good? What is up? Yeah, it's exciting to be doing the second show of the day. I understand we're doing that from now on, 2 shows a day, morning and night. Is that right?
Yes. It's practically Vegas here. 2 shows a day.
All right, very good.
Do we get the fancy outfits like Vegas, though?
Sequins. I want the sequins, yes.
You want sequins. All right. Well, how about Aerowolf, our virtuous hero? How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Chief. Great to be here. Looking forward to talking about a lot of the reveals and the Kickstarter and things today. Now that I've had a chance to kind of dissect them and digest them a little bit. Can't wait to also interact with folks in chat and see what kind of cool stuff we can talk about today. Looking forward to it.
Nice. And I am Chief Sarkhan. I am the completionist. I am that guy. It's been a seriously crazy day.
Yeah.
Can you believe the Kickstarter is already at $445,000? I mean, that one day is just totally insane.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
So with that, what do we have in the news today?
All right, so from the Golden Glory news desk, here is the latest in Crowfall news. There really hasn't been much happening lately. It's been kind of quiet on the Crowfall front. There was a Kickstarter that launched today, along with some really cool reveals. The Crowfall counter that we've been waiting for has reached 0. And with that has come, of course, the Kickstarter announcement. Now, as we speak right now, what I'm seeing on the screen is $445,000, over 4,800 backers so far. And there are still, at this time, some really good values, some early bird stuff. For example, even just the $30 backing gets you the $50 box. It's a buy-to-play game. I mean, even if you know that you probably buy the game when it comes out, do the $30 one. You'll save yourself $20. Yeah. So that puts it at about 55% funded. And this is only after about, 13 hours? So it's very, very impressive. Along with, of course, today's Kickstarter news, we saw some reveals of some more archetypes. We saw 3 more archetypes. We saw the Druid, the Ranger, I believe, and the Champion. So we've got, of course, the Druid, which is a support archetype. We've got the Ranger, which is a specialty archetype, and the Champion, which is a melee DPS archetype. Now, of course, as we learn more about the archetypes, for example, in some of the information we'll get into in a little while, we learn that those archetypes can then progress into more advanced classes where they can also alter their role. For example, the Knight can become a melee DPS, or it can become a tank, or it can even become ranged, which is something I didn't see coming. So a lot of cool stuff coming up the line as well. In addition, there were also 3 final free FAQs that were put up onto the page over at crowfall.com. We saw the character in advancement FAQ, the strategy FAQ, and then, of course, the Kickstarter FAQ. In fact, a lot of those tiers that we see, a lot of the different prizes that were available with the different giving tiers, those are explained on that Kickstarter FAQ. So make sure you head over there if you have any other questions. Now, there was a lot of things we did miss last week. I'm not going to get into them all this week. Make sure you go to crowfall.com. Hit the news page, and you'll be able to get caught up on those. But that is all I'm going to cover for today, because we have a lot to talk about, gentlemen. That is all from the G&G News Desk. Back to you, Franklin.
All right. Well, yeah, as you said, a lot has came out today, and we have little time to cover it. But, let's kick off the discussions from today. It looks like from our community, Black Wolf, of all people, had a question. What are your takes on the gameplay in the Eternal Kingdoms, and what is the incentive to spend time and effort there? And that is a huge topic that we'll try and condense to this one show. It may stretch over 2 or 3 in the future, but, let's just jump right into it, Bill. What do you think?
Well, I think that's an excellent question because the Eternal Kingdoms, based on what we now sort of see in the Kickstarter tiers, is incredibly important, and I think it's no less than what is going to be it represents progression. It's the end game. You can build your kingdom up. So in that regard, there are a lot of unanswered questions. All the tiers or many of the tiers have little perks for your kingdom, whether it's an upgraded castle or additional tax-free plots or a god statue or whatever it is. So on the one hand, you can look at it as this place where it's just kind of maybe what we thought coming into this nice place where you just have some customization space, but then we also see, and we kind of knew some of this, where you have a rule set that you as the monarch of that land can set. So you can turn on PvP. What does that mean all of a sudden? And what is that really for? They talk about how these lands could be used for crafting, and you can actually, as the monarch, you can sublease land to other players who can actually sublease that land to other players. And I try to get my head all around it, but it has really big implications. I think the Eternal Kingdoms are going to be the thing that drives us to do the campaigns and vice versa.
Yeah, my head still hurts from trying to sort out all of the details that came out of that Eternal Kingdoms discussion. Now, if there's anybody here, you're kind of new to Crowfall and you're not sure what we're talking about, the Eternal Kingdoms is the permanent place in the Crowfall universe. It's where the worlds don't reset, where the other worlds, the other places you go to do battle and so forth, the campaigns, those worlds eventually will come to a close and they'll reset. Those are not permanent. Where the Eternal Kingdoms, it doesn't go anywhere. This is where your home is. This is your guild housing, your guild craft, or your personal housing, or whatever it is. So it's interesting because this is where the Game of Thrones piece comes in, where you're talking about gaining influence, and you're talking about being more powerful, getting bigger castles, and all these parcels of land that you have. What does that look like? Are we just laying out like bigger space that we can occupy, bigger space we can rent and tax? I don't know. It's insane the amount of possibility. But as you said, Bill, if this is going to be the progression, if this is going to be where the progression is, how do I impact that progression? What do I do? What does it mean for me to have more power? Does it mean I have more money? Does it mean I have more people under me? I don't know. That's a great question.
Right, and just real quick to add to the end of that is it looks to be, or at least has been described so far, a very player centric, I don't want to say solo focused. So where does your guild and where are you supposed to build up your own? Is that your own little sort of fiefdom, or is there more to it? I guess you need to find out, but that's just something that kind of concerned me.
Well, And if we take a look at the Dying Worlds vid, Nicholas McBride, I don't know if he was supposed to say it. I don't know if he wanted to, but he said, yeah, and then there's Eternal Kingdoms where you have player housing and guild housing, and they cut away from it.
He did say that.
And I thought to myself going, wait a minute. So guild housing and player housing, on the outer ring. And I'm like, well, isn't it interesting in Kickstarter, we saw all of this stuff in Kickstarter about guild names or guild heraldry or something. But did you notice there was nothing about guild land? Right? So it's just kind of interesting about the concept of if you get a bunch of like people in an area and you want to build a guild, where is the guild land going to come from for your guild housing? Is it we all chip in and like, yeah, you can have the corner of my field down here because I don't really need it. And everyone chips in, and then therefore does your guild control this amount of land, and then does the guild control the action sets, the combat settings? Because if you're a good enough guild with good enough people, turn it on to PvP, invite people over, kill them, and then loot them 100%, and now you're rich. So, for all we know, you do it right. You're just inviting people to come die on your doorstep. I can just loot them for cash. So again, like Lethality said, I've got a lot more questions than I have answers now. But I'm happy because some of my assumptions that I had before about the Eternal Kingdom are now easier dismissed. So I have a whole new series of poor assumptions, I think, that I need to chase down.
Well, for me, I took the whole player housing, guild housing to be interchangeable. And looking at on the Kickstarter page on the way they kind of tiled out the land you control and what can go on that area, I think a person could progress far enough to own all that personal. Or you could say designate the keep and all the surrounding land as guild land, and then everybody has a share in the ownership of it. But you still have to have somebody that runs it. You still have to have somebody that collects the tax, and the way it looks like you designate people as different roles, just like in a guild, and you establish who does what on that land. And like in some other games, you're basically building your own city. And the more land you acquire, the more chance you have to build your own crafting stations, or like one of the Kickstarters had a chapel. Well, why would you want a chapel on your land? There has to be a reason. And if there's a chapel and there's cottages and there's farms and there's your keeps and then your castles, what other buildings have they not told us about that makes it beneficial to build that up? And yes, they said you could turn on PvP, but is that like you're turning on a training ground and it's not really the same rules as if you're out on a campaign? I would think that's the way it is. It's more of, hey, we can PvP here to practice, but it's not going to have the same repercussions as out in the real world. It may or may not. It may be, hey, my guild is going to attack your guild in the Eternal Kingdoms and we're just going to go for it. But
well,
I don't know.
One thing that's sort of related to that I'm unclear on, I think, is are the Eternal Kingdoms, they're persistent in that they exist all the time and they don't change, they don't die like the other worlds, but are they persistent to everyone? I did read somewhere, maybe it was one of the FAQs, how you could control who has access to it. But I don't know if that means, are they all out there? And these, like, can you roam the land and come across others' kingdoms, or do you specifically have to be invited? I don't want to use the word instanced, but is that how it works? Or
well,
I'd be
that's
curious.
A good question. Is it like where Wildstar housing? Do you zone in to somebody else's area? We know these areas are huge, though. But you're right. Do you zone in? Are they connected somehow? Is there land in between? How do you travel between them? Great question. We don't. Yeah, just no idea right now. It's a mystery.
All right. Well, without having more information, I think that's a good time to move on to the next part of this. Crafting really only showed up once on the Kickstarter page. And for a lot of us, especially this show, which is part of our whole focus, crafting is one of the 3 pillars that we talk about. Why haven't we seen more crafting? Why haven't we gotten a bit more flavor in that, when it seemed like when they first started putting out information, that was such a huge focus? So let's start with James. Get the rant out.
Okay, I actually have more. I have actually a better understanding of why I've seen less crafting now than with what was released. Because can we just talk about the whole? So you can choose, to become one of your 3 disciplines, which is archery, blacksmithing, and bounty hunter. So
wait a minute. What, blacksmithing? Did you say blacksmithing?
Yeah, blacksmithing is a discipline. So what you're saying is that I can be A, B, or C, but one of those, I get 3 choices. One of those is crafting, and one of them seems like archery. That seems like a combat skill. So hypothetically, can I choose 3 combat skills? So will I be a better combat person if I choose not to craft? I'm okay with that. If crafters are impactful, then people who really want to craft will then be dedicated to crafting, and therefore that's awesome. But on the other hand, if I decide to play a stealth class and, hide or burrow my way to safety, can I choose 2 gatherings or a gathering and 2 craftings and actually choose no combat disciplines up? Maybe that can be done too.
Well, in the video, they talked about how someone could be a dedicated crafter if you have a network to support you. Even though Eternal Kingdoms has 0 resources, or almost none, you could stay in Eternal Kingdoms and craft the entire time, so they gave the impression. So I think you could be 3 disciplines of crafting.
Yeah, I think so. But what's interesting about that is if you look at most of the rule sets have some limits or some definition on what you can take to or from the world. So what good potentially is someone, crafting on the Eternal Kingdoms world that using all their skills and abilities or whatever, if it's a limited, what if there's a limit on what you can take to whatever campaign world you're going?
Sure.
And to me, that means crafters, we'll have to know a lot more about the promotion classes and the disciplines to see if I'm going to take Onrez out on this campaign because he has to craft in the field. He has to go with us. He is absolute cannon fodder. He can't do a thing combat-wise, but he has to be there, and that's going to be an interesting aspect to this. Like you need crafters and gatherers in your party, just like strategy games have that thing. You got to constantly get more wood and bring more whatever it is to fortify this and that, and we're going to be living that in this world, I think.
And you better bring a camp cook, because they said you're going to starve to death.
Can someone make a comment about the old people get hungrier, certain classes get hungrier
so today,
more?
yes, on the forums there was a tease given where one of the forum members on the Crowfall forums noticed that the centaurs ran faster. If you look at the video, you can see the centaurs actually have more speed. Speed is a stat in Crowfall. However, this developer, and I can't believe I can't remember who it was. I don't have the link in front of me, but their comment was, it may have been Blixdev if I recall, said basically this: yes, they're faster, but unfortunately they need a lot of food and they're susceptible to cold. And he just left it. Everyone's like,
I'm just
what?
going to drop this right here. I'm going to go get a burger. I'll be right back.
And then later on, he did the same thing because he made a comment about the Ganetian, your archetype, James. He said that they have a resistance to famine and drought. And then somebody said, "What does that mean?" This was a Twitch chat. This was during the art stream when they were doing they were painting the Ganetian there. The Omnom group or whatever the artists were, and they said, "What do you mean the Ganetians have a resistance to heat, or to drought and famine?" He says, "Well, did you see my comment about the centaur earlier?" And I just know he's sitting back from his keyboard going, "These guys are going crazy now," because I've just he's teasing out these concepts that are so different than so many other games. Like, when have I ever had to worry about heat or cold,
right?
Or
and
eating,
again,
or
what does that
drinking?
mean about eating, about resources, right? Because now, is cooking going to be a thing? Because do I head to some planet and I pick up some grass and I can eat some grass, or do I have to actually transform raw materials into food that actually give me nourishment?
Well, I hope we can cook, because I don't want to do what that Hellcat on the screen is doing, just eating that raw meat there. That's
awesome.
Gross.
Yeah,
that's
like something out of
disgusting.
Walking Dead, right there. It's right
yeah,
there.
no, thank you, Give me a grill, some spices, a little barbecue, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, well, it's a little raw, but you warm it up, it might be all right.
So again, back to the question about the disciplines and then the passive and active skill set piece. I mean, it really does seem like if you're going to want to play a dedicated crafter, crafters having an alt, unless you have a strong support system, you're going to actually have to have something to go out there and feel comfortable to go get resources on your own, unless you can build a strong set of resources and support group to get you the materials and items you need.
Yeah, I was a little, at first as they were unveiling all the archetypes, I was a little sort of, concerned that they weren't unveiling crafting archetypes or a way to talk about crafters as a first-class citizen. But now I kind of see, it appears that you're going to choose that as a discipline, and like you just explained, that's where you're going to really have to make a decision. Which path you're going to go down, and are you going to be a crafter and take 2 or 3 disciplines that are all sort of crafting related, which kind of takes your character out of combat. I'm guessing, to some extent. I don't know, but I definitely want to hear more about that as soon as possible. That discipline system.
Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. Now, as far as the choosing your promotion classes, Okay, or because the progression, okay, the progression system that came out. So we you know, you got the disciplines, right? And you're right, James. To me, I was wondering where the crafting was. I've never been a huge crafter. I've only crafted as much as it has been useful for me to go out and win. That's just the way I play. And if it becomes tedious or it becomes its own job, I tend to lose interest because that's a beautiful sword. I want to go stab something with it. I don't. The sword is to me a means to an end. So for me, the question I had was, okay, where's more crafting? Because they did cover quite a bit at the beginning. Now we're starting to see hints of it being built into character progression itself. And then you think back to what Raf Koster said. He made a beautiful post on the forums about how you cannot have crafting as a side item in an MMO that is going to have player-driven crafting. The game has to be designed from the ground up with crafting and player-driven economy built in. Every piece of gear, every item is it what we eat and drink now? Because there's nothing worse than saying, okay, yeah, we think crafting is important, and that you get into the game and you go to a vendor and see the vendor selling everything that crafter can make, even if it costs more. It's easier just to walk up to a machine and go click, 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 rather than go to that player, right? So, but yeah, the disciplines built in, the crafting built in. Of course, that doesn't even touch on the whole idea with, you go to progression, you've got also now subclasses or promotion classes you can choose. So throughout the progression, you've got now, for example, if I'm a knight, I can now be ranged. I can switch to tank, or I can be melee DPS. So here I am. I'm taking it all out in the battlefield again. Let's get back into the crafters table. That's what we're talking about. But no, good stuff, guys. Good thoughts.
And there's a key factor there that we got to keep in mind with the crafting that is really important when it comes to this. What is the economy of the crafting? Meaning, is it always going to be about having the nicest sword? Is that the only option? Is there going to be a class archetype crafting combination that's going to be the quintessential that always ruins the crafting game in an MMO? If I'm a knight, I have to be a blacksmith because I have to craft this piece of armor, to be effective on the battlefield because I'm doing this promotional discipline. It's going to totally ruin it, no matter how fun and engaging it may be for the crafters or not wanting to be touched by the non-crafters. It's a fine wire right there. How do you do that economy of what you can take to the worlds with you? Who can craft what? How is it a part of your character development and not stovepipe the crafting to only do a certain thing because you want to do a certain thing? You know what I'm saying?
Balance is going to be so tough. You're spot on. You're spot on, Chief. I as much as I've always preached that I want a player-driven economy through crafting, in all honesty, we all know that the deeper the hooks for crafting in the economy tied to actual players doing things makes it harder to balance. Because, back to Airwolf's example, if the prices of things are off on the server, I can always go to that guy selling the vendor and drop everything by 50%. Boom, I just changed how the sink is pulling out gold, and I've changed how the faucet is bringing in equipment. Players don't necessarily act in all players' best interests in how they craft and how they play a game. So the deeper the hooks, the harder it is to balance. So I'm really interested to see, as we get more information, what are the checks and balances to keep things from going too kilter out of whack.
Yeah. One other thought I had too. We talked about crafters being super important, and you're going to need them out in your campaign as you're doing it. But what does that mean for the crafter who, as they talked about, you want to become the well-renowned crafter? Does that mean if you are that super skilled crafter, do you withhold that from? Do you sell that to the world? Is that only for your guild? What does that mean? Because you don't want to give an advantage to somebody that might end up on the other faction or another team during a campaign. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, that is a really interesting perspective to take and could be its own show, because they say between campaigns, every time you pick a campaign, you choose what faction you're going to be on, what side, what objective, and who's on your team. Well, if you can change that up every single time, is it going to be that potential of go find the best crafter and then use his goods against him? possibility. I mean, it's
I'm fine
there.
for that, yeah.
You know, we all want to go get Onres's goods, and then we want to kill him and steal his gold and get our money back. You know, so
That seems fair too. That seems fair.
you know, but that is a real concern based on, you know, how do the campaign structures work? What can you take with you? And I think we talked about this earlier, where you said, well, if I can make this uber sword in Eternal Kingdoms, but I can't take it with me, then what's the point? You know, and the reverse is also, well, if I can only make a sword out here in the field, but I can't take it back with me and use it again, what's the point? And we just dinged 450K. Let's give a round of applause for the Kickstarter. Woo! 450K. All right.
Yay, money. Yay, money.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay.
Did we agree? I forgot. Did we agree we're not going off the air until we hit 500,000?
Correct.
Yes, it's like a Jerry Lewis telethon.
That's right.
We're not going off the air until we hit 500,000 or in 24 minutes. Sorry.
That's
right.
In 15 minutes, we'll be performing our barbershop quartet routine. So
That's
stick
right.
around.
That's
The
right.
phones are open. Start donating. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, let's keep this rolling here. What's our next topic, Bill?
I wanted to pivot in on the just on the concept of promotional classes. In fact, I really hope that it's either impactful or really some sort of detriment to try to change my my disciplines. Can I just say that the thought process of, no, I'm going to become a tailor from being a blacksmith. I'll just save all of my blacksmith skills right over here. And now I'm going to pick up this needle and thread. I'm going to become a really awesome tailor. But any time I'm like, well, I'll go back here and start swinging this hammer again because, by the way, I'm really awesome at being a blacksmith too. I just feel like to have as much impact and long-term replayability, you know, there needs to be a negative reinforcement for willy-nilly changing of disciplines.
But I thought you wanted to crochet chainmail. You're changing up your tune now.
Crochet mail.
I'll have three different players that can do that. Yeah, that's the difference.
Well, here's the thing. There is the concept, and chat's kind of chiming in on this because, I mean, and this is back to the crafting. And one more thing that I think we should really touch on. Ninjaneer said, if you become an amazingly skilled crafter, you could require people to come to your kingdom and get a weapon crafted. Now, we know that people will be seeking out skilled crafters. At least that's what's been talked about. So maybe that's part of that power struggle is finding those talented people. But how it's going to work out is really a mystery at this point. It really is. So I mean, I've said before, a lot of the stuff that I say I think might happen, there'll be an article out next week that proves me 100% wrong. So at this point, we're still kind of guessing. But I am seeing crafting getting weaved into more aspects of the game, and it's very interesting to see how it's going to work out for sure.
Well, that brings up an interesting point because guild dynamics and alliances, I mean, there was a lot of chatter on Twitter today when I could see it every once in a while about guild alliances. Well, if you have your guild over here and you have your guild over there and you join campaigns to work together, even though you're not the same team, there seems like there might become a market for skilled crafters, and then those alliances getting broken, fighting over who gets to have the crafter on their team. That brings a whole nother level to the whole intrigue.
Don't fight over me. There's no need to fight. I have enough money and resources to build for all of you.
Look,
I'm fine.
The days of us crafty nerds being picked last are over. That's all.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Screw
that's right.
dodgeball. This is a whole new game, people.
But look at, but what I'm saying is, if any of you have ever played Eve, I mean, you would have people that would plant themselves in a corporation for a year or two to pull off the heist of the century. Can you imagine that type of intrigue happening in Crowfall just to get a crafter to defect to the other team so they could get that skill if it was that important? I could see it because we are important. Crafters are the bomb. Anybody can kill a fool, but nobody can make the sword that did it,
Okay, guys, breaking news. There is a brand new pledge tier. A brand new pledge tier
out, right?
$34. You get contributor early bird, digital copy of Crowfall, access to beta 2, and credit. So that's a brand new tier, and there are only 1,995 of those left.
And that is a steal because they're saying the game's going to cost $50 at launch, and
Right.
you're getting it for 34, you have nothing to lose.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing that you had at $30, so it's $4 more, but still still a bargain. So
It's
brand
a
new tier.
$4 fee for hesitating.
That's right.
That's
Don't
right.
wait around. Don't wait around till they add $6 more as
Right.
a negative reinforcement.
I hope
Just
you've all
buy
learned a
the
lesson. It just
yeah.
cost you $4.
Move
That's
along
right.
and pay your $34.
That's right.
You know, and the way they've been making money, they had absolutely no reason to add that tier. So hats off to Artcraft for, you know, saying, hey, we appreciate the vigor of the donations, and we're going to go ahead, and even though it's going to cost us money on some of you, we're going to put in this extra tier. That's amazing. They haven't made goal yet, and they're already giving more people a chance to save.
Right. Absolutely. Now, I think James, you tossed this into the notes. I don't know. You guys think we have time to talk for just a second about telegraphs, or should we wait on that?
Nah, we got time.
Okay, so the reason James put this in there is because there was an interesting dialogue. It was actually Bill Murphy from MMORPG that kind of posed this question. Basically, telegraphs, of course, in WildStar, in my opinion, work in WildStar. But in this game, the way it is with collision and with physics, for example, if you're ranged and you need to launch an arrow over a group, and there's an arc to that, the telegraph, like the flashlight type telegraph that just shoots forward, isn't really going to work. It would have to be like this strange cone that kind of floats over the enemy. And the conversation on the forums became interesting because the devs got in there and said, actually, we're kind of leaning more toward a Terra type combat system. We just don't want movement to be as restricted during combat. So it does sound like they may be moving away from telegraphs, even though we saw those in the video. Those were early videos, but so it looks like telegraphs may be out, guys. What do you think about that?
I hope they don't. I hope they stay in and we skill out. So if we skill, you know, by doing stuff, we progress, right? We work toward promotion. In my opinion, having basic telegraphs in game as you're learning a new skill actually makes some good sense. I mean, I think it doesn't have to stay forever. You know, you can skill out of the need of having a telegraph. But I mean, if you learn a new skill, and let's say your new skill is a whirlwind sword attack, because I'm a bad knight. I'm a guinea pig knight. Boy, that's awesome. Anyhow, so if I'm a guinea pig knight and I spin in a circle, wouldn't it be nice to know the maximum reach of my guinea pig arms? Because I shouldn't make assumptions that I'm going to be able to reach you.
Well,
a guinea pig tank is a hamster wheel.
Well, knowing what you can do is one thing, but in terms of the incoming damage, you know, you could in WildStar, you will not live super long, especially in raids, if there's not some kind of telegraph, and that's the whole purpose of the name telegraph. What do? They would have to go a long ways in making sure, and maybe they will, in making sure the character animations are doing enough telegraphing of their own to let you know what's coming then.
And that's what Terra does very well. Terra, as far as animations, as far as like the enemies giving you a clue that they're about to attack, that game does that exceptionally well. It's a lot of work, and so I'm very curious how that's going to work in Crowfall. I voted kind of in between. Now, one thing that is included, because I know Sato had put together some of those GIFs. One of the animated GIFs in that pack he gave us actually showed some. It looked like knight combat or Templar combat fighting without a telegraph underneath it, and I'll admit it looked cleaner to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're spending a lot of time on the overall action, you know, animation. They're spending time and effort on a good-looking ground, and you know, pay attention, I guess. But I think that, you know, understanding the action combat and the physics makes it actually a more complicated combat game than some. Maybe having some sort of training wheels that you skill out of, I think could work. You know, could make sense.
Yeah, Visibility Zero in the chat mentioned, you know, the animation locks that are in Terra and other games becomes like a controversial topic usually in the launch weeks of an MMO, and the new players start to get in, and the idea that your movements are locked to your animation, or can you break out of them? And I remember SWTOR going through some of that, and all that. But so it definitely is a consideration.
Well, I admit, when I heard that today, I actually re-downloaded Terra just to get a feel. Just that's what I did, because I thought, okay, if combat is going to be kind of like that, I might want to get used to it. I mean, I know it won't be exactly the same. And again, you're right; it's a controversial topic, and we could have a whole show on that. But I think it's just very interesting that they're still open to it. If anybody has opinion on it, here's what's cool: we are starting to see devs post in the official forums now. So I think it is a good place to go to kind of chime in on this. This is the time. The game's not done. If you really feel strongly about something, hey, there he is. What's up, Blixdev? Welcome to the stream. So we're just talking about you a minute ago. So, but yeah, I mean that's but exactly right, and that's my point. Is they're listening. So if you have an opinion on it, get over there and talk about it. So that's exactly what we should be doing is getting into that conversation. It's worth having.
Well, and I think it's a good point to talk about the telegraph system. And you're saying, well, you got to be concerned about the mob telegraphs. Well, they said there's going to be some PvE, but how much is it, and how much telegraphing would we potentially need? I mean, so I like telegraphs, like Anrez was saying, to a point, but at the same time, maybe they have them on and you have an option to turn them off, or as you go up in skill, you no longer need them. I don't know. Like I said, people need to get on the forums and express their opinions, and it's going to be extremely heated, I'm sure.
Oh,
yes.
God,
yeah. And those Alpha 1 guys and gals who opted into that, they'll know first. You Alpha 1 people, whoever you are.
You crazy people.
Hey, I have a confession.
Uh-oh.
I have a confession.
Oh, did you do it? Did you do it?
I pulled the trigger. I upgraded today. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like we've got the.
Before 24 hours is up, he's going to have upgraded 3 times.
No, that's bad. Somebody's got to stop me if I start talking.
So,
like
okay, we're actually, that's going to be our next topic, I think, because I think the last thing we're going to talk about, Franklin, I think we're going to talk about our opinion about, because we knew that the countdown was coming, right?
Oh yeah,
the countdown was coming, and we knew that at the countdown we would have the full vision of Crowfall, and at that point, people could make a decision. Okay, is this the game for us or not? Right?
Yeah.
So, guys, what do you think? I mean, now that you have the reveal, are you going to continue to support Crowfall? If you got a tier package, what'd you get?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
You were already starting, man. You were already on.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Somebody's excited.
So absolutely, clearly, I was on the fence at first. I started off. I'm a stickler for collecting. The physical collector's edition was definitely my thing. So I started with that Amber package. So I knew I was right in. Then that was before I read anything or watched any videos. I just led with my wallet, closed my eyes, and said, "Okay, this is it." But throughout the day, as I finally read more stuff and I watched the videos, I was convinced. So that's when I decided to upgrade. And so for me, yes, I'm going to keep supporting Crowfall. I don't think we know everything yet. Obviously, we have a lot more questions, maybe even than we had yesterday, about what's happening. But to me, it sounds like something that's certainly unique in the genre. It's something that maybe is something that you can play alongside of another game as well. It's not maybe all consuming. I'd be curious to know how that works, like when a campaign's going on. What if you're not there for 3 days? What happens? That kind of thing. But I'm all in. This game fits nicely on my radar for how I play, my play style these days, and my time commitments. And I'm just I'm all in, as you can clearly see now.
Nice.
God.
Nice.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was actually going to say I also had changed mine, but I changed mine live on stream this morning. So the question, am I going to continue to support Crowfall? Today, today's reveal and the information that came out, I can't say any of it surprised me, except for it's just, a lot of questions, a lot of things I don't know, a lot of things I wonder how they work. It's so different than other MMOs that I've played, but that's kind of why I'm interested in Crowfall. because to a degree, a lot of the MMOs I've been playing have been kind of the same game to a degree with a certain, different skins and different looks. So yeah, I am looking for something unique for the first time in 10 years, something different. I mean, the whole concept of Crowfall, when I found out who was involved with it, I thought, okay, this is a solid project. This isn't just by people that are just new at this. These are vets, right? So I've been watching, and then today it just solidified that these guys. I've commented about some of the other Kickstarters I've seen, and I know that as MMO fans, we all love to support new MMOs. We love to see a healthy, diverse genre. But I've made comments about some of them that don't they don't know how to market, and they don't know how to put the things that grab my attention first. And when I saw the page today, and our reaction was live this morning, I thought, okay, yeah, these guys know exactly what they're doing. They know the questions that someone like me has, and so absolutely. So I started out with the gold. I was pretty happy with that until I found out the physical collector's edition was in the amber.
We told you that.
Well, that's how I found out. You guys told me, and so I was thinking, okay, $150. I will only have to sleep on the couch for about a week and a half with my wife. I figure if you have $50 for half a week, $150, that's a week and a half on the couch, in time out for my wife, and so I thought I can do that. I can do that. So I did the 150, and I went, well, it doesn't come out till next month, because you figure a lot of people don't realize, Kickstarter, it comes out May 29th or March 29th, right? Is that when it comes out? A lot of people are going to have their tax returns back by then. So a lot of people don't realize, like, you're not in charge now, right? This is when it funds, then you pay. So I thought, okay, well, actually, 150 I can do. So I did the gold and thought, you know what? I better take the plunge. So I bumped it up to amber. I'm so glad I did. And then now my head is still just kind of like, well, if another tier opens up in between, I might be looking at I may be looking at the entire month of March on the couch. That's all I'm going to say.
Talk about throwing the fish hook out there with your mouth already on the hook.
Oh my God!
Hey,
no, please.
Artcraft is going to go make a new tier just so you can bump it again.
Oh,
you just opened mouth.
Tier.
That is
one available.
The Airwolf tier, yes, between Amber and Sapphire.
And what's bad is if they did, I probably would bump mine up too.
Yeah. So I mean, the reality is it's so cruelly awesome to do something like that. That's all I'll say. So yeah, I'm all in. I've been very fortunate. I've been involved in the forums. I'm getting to know the community, and really, I like the energy. I like the passion. Those of you in chat, of course, have been amazing as well. But this has really kind of revitalized me. So it's been a great experience, and I look forward to the next several months and hopefully years experiencing with everybody.
Well, keep in mind, since we're Amber, you have 6 years worth of potential entertainment
6
included.
years, yes,
so
that's right.
6
years VIP.
6
Well,
years
go ahead,
VIP.
Franklin. Go ahead, since you said we're Amber. Jump on in. Where did you jump in and why?
So I jumped in. I said this morning. I mean, basically, the Kickstarter started. We got on the page. It was probably less than 3,000 donated. I mean, we were Johnny on the spot. I mean, we were 10 minutes late, but And I scrolled down through the tiers, and the first thing I seen was Physical Collector's Edition. I said, that's good enough for me. I hadn't watched a video. I hadn't read any tiers. I hadn't done anything except seen Physical Collector's Edition, and the hook was set. So I hope the Physical Collector's Edition rocks. Will I potentially bump it up the tier? We'll see how it goes. I'm pretty happy with Amber. Would I step it up to Sapphire? I wouldn't have any problem, but I got to see more benefits to the
Alpha
internal
1.
kingdom footprint.
Alpha 1.
Because to me, what is refreshing about this game is I foresee the potential of being able to log in, play for a half hour to an hour, and it being fresh and new every single time. So many games right now, you log in, for example, not to WoW Bash, but I log in and my first 45 minutes to an hour is just getting my dailies done before I do anything else. And sometimes I'm just too tired to continue. So I'm not ever getting anything done except the slow progression the dailies do. I don't see that in Crowfall. I see fresh, fun entertainment every single time you log in, and that's what hooked me. You know, I want to log in, I want to craft, gonna have a good time. I want to log in and destroy a tower. Game on, let's do it. I just want to fight. It's all there. You know, Crowfall has got the right package going, and I am so happy I got in on day one. How about you, James?
Okay, so I was the last buy on the podcast, and that's not because I wasn't ready to buy. I'm traveling, right? And so I forgot to, you know, I talked to the wife, said, hey, I'm thinking of back something. She's like, oh, great, you know, that's great.
Do you got your divorce lawyer lined up?
And I didn't realize, you know, I didn't have no idea what the prices were, and I'm thinking going, huh. So I kind of told her it'd be around X, and thanks to the people, some of the people in the chat stream, let's just say that my choices were more like Y. And so I was looking at gold, and I was going, well, maybe I'll do the gold patron, you know, yada yada. And then I'm like, you know, then I sent a quick text. I don't know if you could tell when I was actually in the live stream. I'm texting my wife. And I think I woke her up because she was pretty easy to sell on it. And
Nice.
yeah, catch her when she was a little dopey. I said, hey, you know, I want to do this. I really want to support this game. I'm really enjoying the community. I'm really enjoying access to some of the devs. I think their comments, they're really committed. And you know what? You know, how about if they say that I can name a fallen monarch on approval, and I just think, hon, your name would be awesome.
Oh,
Monarch. She's like, well, what do you mean? So I would be in the game. I go, oh yeah, you'd be in the game, you know, forever. And so I sold the Monarch name to move up to Amber. So if
I love it.
yeah,
I love it. You're good, dude. You're good.
Yeah, so it's like, if you guys move up another tier, I'm not sure what else I need to sell, but
a kidney?
you know, yeah, I don't know, something. And again, I blame a lot of Kickstarters coming out that I'm really kind of interested in. I mean, I'm fortunate to be able to play the games I want to play. I just try to be careful in which ones I dive in too deep, but I agree with some of the people in chat. I think the sweet spot was right there for me at the Amber Patreon early, you know, the early bird format. I'm not sure about the whole, you know, we saw PSW Tyrant in the chat this morning talk about how big your, you know, these plots of lands are, and
The parcels.
You know, the parcels. And I'm like, he's posting and going, oh God, that's pretty big. So if it's pretty big to start with, if I get an additional 5 tax-free parcels, that's 5 times bigger. So I kind of blame Gordon too.
It's all about the blaming right now.
Everybody but yourself, right?
I'm in a blaming phase right now. So let's just all continue to work hard and create good suggestions for the devs, so that I'm not in a told you so moment. So how's that?
There you go.
Cool.
There you
But
go.
is it a blame mode, or is it sticker shock denial?
No, I don't. I think again, don't be wrong. I was looking to try to work my way to Alpha 1. There just wasn't a really easy path for that right now. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
wanted the private dinner with the devs or the
I know.
studio tour, but that was just
God.
that would be divorce attorney time.
I do want to say this though, guys. And it's something I'm very proud of. I think Crowfall and the Artcraft team. I know I'm not alone in this. I saw this so many times. I use TweetDeck, and I see every time Crowfall or Crowfall games mentioned, I get an alert, and I can't count how many times people said this, because I'm one of them. This is the first Kickstarter I've ever done. I didn't even have a Kickstarter account before Crowfall, so
I can't say that.
well, and a lot of people can't, but I know for me this was the first one. So hats off to Artcraft and the Crowfall team for that.
So
Yeah.
I know we're starting to wind it down really quick. I wonder if I could do one more thing. I wanted to ask the chat room and all you guys. So it looks really good. Like, what are we at? We're going to probably hit at least 500,000 while we're sleeping. What do you think? What do you think they're going to introduce for stretch goals? Once they hit that number, assuming they do, and it looks like they will, just name one thing you think might be a stretch goal for this game.
Ooh, good question. And I actually, right now, also, while they're doing that, it looks like we just went over to 5,000 backers, 5,001 backers now.
Yep.
Great.
So that's outstanding. Boy, what a stretch goal. So yeah, I'm curious in chat too. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
What's a stretch goal? What would you like to see? I think I would love to see as a stretch goal. Well, there's a lot of things I'd like to see. I would love to see, you know, convention booths.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was part of your idea, Jane. I think I got that from you. Actually, I just totally stole that. But presence at conventions. Hey, if we get a tier, a comic book,
Yeah. Ooh,
showing
nice.
the lore of or a physical copy of the book of the gods that we've seen. Some lore stuff. I would love to see. What do you guys think? Mounts. Somebody said mounts.
Yeah, Grace head mounts. That's a good one. I like that kind of thing.
As long as they don't overly increase the amount of speed, I love the concept of having mounts.
Yeah.
Here, stretch goals. Stretch goals would also, by the way, and this is Black Wolf mentioned this because he's talking about Gamescom. I would love to see Artcraft be able to maintain ownership of both North America and Europe, and be able to control both.
Yeah, that's a great one. That would be a great stretch.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Bill. Go ahead.
What do you think, Bill?
No, I was just going to say, two quick things. I think, they described on the Kickstarter page how this is about, funding the rest of the core module, which describes it, right? So it seems to me there's definitely more that's planned. There's a bigger scope that's out there, but getting the game finished and defined as it stands now is what they want to do. So I'd be interested to know what beyond the core module means, and that might be totally new things in the stretch goals that that we haven't heard at all anything about, and I don't know what those would be. But
are you meaning to say that Crowfall would introduce something we didn't see coming?
I don't know.
Oh, they don't ever do that, do they?
No.
I think they've actually shown pretty good at being able to surprise folks.
Yeah.
A lot of things I never saw coming. So who knows what they're holding under their hat.
No, for sure.
So some stretch goals I would like to see, considering Eternal Kingdoms is the focus of your persistent world. More choices on the styles of the buildings. If currently there's only 1 or 2 styles of cottages, expand it to 10 or 15. Customize your castles. If you can customize your plots to where you're building your city, we don't know if there is or isn't, but is there only one place you can put your religious building and your forge on your property based on the size of your plot, or can it be more customizable? Make that map building a jigsaw puzzle that those that own it could do. Maybe it's already in the plans, maybe it's not a stretch goal, but if it isn't, add it in. I would also like to see some out-of-game tools that allows you to go browse and see what the statuses of guilds and people are and how they're developing building, because nothing drives competition than an ability to see how they're doing. It doesn't affect gameplay because it's just an Eternal Kingdom status quo per se, but maybe you can go see those neat builds. WildStar was very cool about taking a tour of somebody's house. Well, maybe you don't have time to do it in-game, but you still want your Crowfall fix. You have these online tool, this interface, you could go check something out. I think that would be a good, cool stretch goal that doesn't impact the game, but gives us an extra tie-in. I don't know. Just a couple of thoughts I had.
Yeah.
I would expand on my original ones to say I think that there's, with the style of community that's kind of coalescing around Crowfall, and this is just my assumption. And again, I've really enjoyed my time hitting Crush the Throne. I really enjoy the regular forums. I haven't been posting as much as I should because again, we've been spending so much time on speculating stuff. But I really think something similar to hitting the conferences, but maybe choosing some geolocational areas across both North America, maybe South, Central, or Europe, and actually having some small community supported events. Now, if the community is willing to get together and build it build a community get together. Maybe the stretch goal could be Gordon and J Todd being able to afford pushing 1 or 2 people to those supported events. You know what I mean? So I mean,
Yep.
let the community carry the coordination and the planning, and let us create the hype in the area. But if we can reach a certain goal, then the team can afford to send a community person out there, and maybe an artist, a community person out there, and maybe an animator. More access to people sooner than we can just creates more excitement, in my opinion, and more deeper connections. You're going to get the great feedback. People are going to be, and to be honest, let's be, forums can be tough. People have strong opinions, but if you're sitting down and talking to people in the community face to face, I feel like people are less likely to go too negative. They're more likely to listen to other people's opinions and maybe find a good way to come to a great solution.
Yep, totally agreed. Totally agree.
What?
So, go ahead, Franklin.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna.
I was going to say go ahead, Franklin. So
Okay,
that's it.
I will go ahead. I just went ahead and put in all our links over in the Twitch chat, so make sure you following us all at those fine locations. We have our Twitter, Golden Glory Podcast. We also have a Facebook. We have a website. We have our YouTube channel. We have an iTunes channel. You can find past broadcasts. We are a bi-weekly show, but as you can tell, we don't seem to be able to count to 2. So quite often we do a show every week, or like today, 2 shows in one day.
They keep dropping stuff. We can't let go 2 weeks.
I know. We have no shows.
It's Outcraft's fault, right?
No shows in April and 42 shows on Friday, as far as I can.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Exactly right.
Hey, we could do a 24-hour live show. Get the devs on here and we'll just talk for 24 hours straight, right?
I agree.
That sounds good.
Some future milestone. Maybe when it all funds, we can do something fun, which will be tomorrow.
I like that. I like that idea. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do a show when it fully funds. So what are you guys doing at about 5 a.m. tomorrow?
We'll be right back here, right? But make sure you're checking us out all those places. And we have to give a shout out to Crush the Throne. They gave us a spot on their forums to have you guys come ask us questions. As you can see, we want to hear from you guys. We want to interact with you, not just live. So if you have questions that you want us to talk about on the show, get over there and ask us. We'll talk to you between shows. We'll bring it on the show and we'll talk to it there. If you have an opinion about a past show or suggestions, that's the place to catch up with us. Of course, you can always hit one of us up individually on Twitter also. If you haven't told, we're all very chatty, whether it's 140 characters at a time or on a podcast. It's just who we are. And we also need to put a shout out to MMORPG.com, who lets us bring our fine show right here on their channel. So give them some love, follow the channel itself and or their Twitter. I also happen to stream for that channel also. Plug to myself. But everybody else, give yourselves a plug, and we'll get out of here for the night. What do you think?
All right, sounds good. My name is Arawolf, of course. ARAWULF. You can find me on Twitter at Arawolf. I also host my own blog at thewolfden.com. And I do post a lot of Crowfall content lately, and I've got some new Crowfall sections coming as well. Who's next?
Me. And I can really only be found safely in 140 characters or less. I'm like one of those really stinky cheeses that people enjoy in really small amounts, but you would never buy a large block. So, best to find me at Onres on Twitter, and I occasionally may pop up with an article here or there, but better to just stay on Twitter.
How about
Stinky
you, Bill?
cheese in a small block. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And I can be found as Lethality at real_lethality on Twitter. That's pretty much it right now. There's a few things coming soon also, but I'd love to chat it up on there. Some days I'm talking way too much, so I need some company on there.
Yeah, and of course I'm Chief Sarkhan. I'm also known as the MMO Chief. I talk about games endlessly. I have my own YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. All you got to do is look for Chief Sarkhan, Chief, MMO Chief, You'll find me everywhere. Anyway, you all have a great night. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will see you on our next show in the very near future. Everybody wave bye-bye.
Near future.